My dear friends, one of the most persistent and painful questions I have encountered over many decades is this. If I am intelligent, informed, and hardworking, why am I still struggling financially? This question is often asked in silence. It is rarely spoken aloud. Because intelligence carries with it an expectation that effort and understanding should naturally lead to success. Yet, reality tells a different story. Some of the most intelligent people I have known lived with constant financial anxiety. At the same time, others of modest intellect built stable and enduring wealth. This observation is uncomfortable, but it is necessary. Intelligence by itself is not a reliable path to wealth. This is not an insult. It is an explanation. Most people assume that financial success is primarily a function of knowledge. If one reads enough books, studies enough markets, and understands enough concepts, wealth should follow. But markets do not reward intelligence in isolation. They reward behavior. And behavior is shaped less by what we know and more by how we respond under pressure. Intelligent people often face a unique disadvantage. They're acutely aware of risk. They see multiple outcomes simultaneously. They understand complexity. This awareness, while valuable, can quietly become a trap. Instead of acting, they analyze. Instead of committing, they compare. Instead of building systems, they search for certainty. And certainty, I must tell you plainly, does not exist in markets. The intelligent mind often waits for clarity that never fully arrives. This leads to hesitation. Hesitation leads to missed opportunities. And missed opportunities, repeated over time, create frustration. That frustration then feeds a dangerous belief. I understand this, so why isn't it working? At this stage, many intelligent individuals conclude that the problem lies outside themselves. They blame timing. They blame capital. They blame the system. Rarely do they examine behavior, because examining behavior is uncomfortable. It forces one to admit that understanding is not the same as execution. I have seen brilliant analysts paralyzed by choice. I have seen careful thinkers postpone decisions indefinitely, waiting for a moment that feels safe. But markets do not move according to comfort. They move according to cycles, emotion, and uncertainty. And those who cannot act within uncertainty remain spectators. This is why intelligence often creates the illusion of control. The intelligent investor believes that if he thinks long enough, risk can be eliminated. But risk is not eliminated by thinking. It is managed by structure. Without structure, intelligence becomes restless. It searches endlessly for better answers instead of building resilient processes. Over time, this restlessness erodes confidence. The intelligent person begins to doubt himself, not because he lacks ability, but because his actions never seem to match his understanding. This gap between knowledge and action is where many smart people remain financially stuck. Not because they are incapable, but because they are waiting for the wrong signal. Today, I want to explore this gap with you calmly and honestly, not to criticize intelligence, but to explain why intelligence alone is not enough and how it must be paired with discipline, structure, and emotional restraint to produce lasting results. Because until this truth is understood, many intelligent people will continue to ask the same question year after year. How can I know so much and still feel so far behind? Let us now examine what actually holds intelligent people back. Not a lack of information, not a lack of effort, but a set of behavioral patterns that quietly sabotage progress. The first trap is overthinking. Intelligent people are trained to analyze. They look for nuance. They consider multiple variables at once. This ability is useful, but in markets, it often becomes paralyzing. Instead of asking, "Is this decision reasonable?" they ask, "Is this decision perfect?" They search for confirmation from every angle. They wait for clarity. They postpone action until uncertainty feels reduced. But uncertainty does not shrink on command. Markets move forward while the intelligent mind remains in preparation. Over time, preparation becomes a substitute for progress. The second trap is decision paralysis. When too many possibilities are visible, commitment feels dangerous. The intelligent investor sees 10 scenarios instead of 2. He imagines what could go wrong in each one. He fears choosing incorrectly more than he values choosing decisively. So he delays. He tells himself he is being careful. In reality, he is avoiding responsibility for outcomes. Because once a decision is made, uncertainty becomes real. And intelligent people often fear being wrong more than they fear being inactive. But inactivity has a cost. Opportunities do not announce themselves twice. Compounding does not wait for confidence. And time does not pause while we analyze. The third trap is excessive self-reliance. Intelligent people trust their own reasoning deeply. They believe that if something does not fully make sense to them, it should be avoided. This leads them to reject simple systems in favor of complex explanations. They redesign strategies endlessly. They adjust rules midstream. They override structure with judgment. But judgment, when exercised repeatedly under pressure, becomes inconsistent. This is why I have always emphasized rules and limits, not because they eliminate thinking, but because they protect thinking from emotion. Without structure, intelligence becomes reactive. It responds to headlines. It reacts to losses. It overcorrects after mistakes. The intelligent investor begins to believe that flexibility is strength. But flexibility without discipline is instability. Over time, this instability erodes trust, not in markets, but in oneself. And once self-trust is weakened, confidence collapses. The intelligent person begins to hesitate even more. He studies even longer. He delays even further. Thus, the cycle reinforces itself. Overthinking leads to inaction. Inaction leads to regret. Regret leads to more overthinking. This is how intelligent people remain financially stuck, not because they lack insight, but because insight is never translated into consistent behavior. Markets reward consistency far more than brilliance. A simple process followed faithfully will outperform a brilliant idea applied inconsistently. This is a difficult truth for intelligent minds to accept, because it suggests that the solution is not more thinking, but better restraint. And restraint is not intuitive to those trained to reason deeply. In the next part of our discussion, we will examine how discipline, structure, and emotional control quietly outperform intelligence, and why those who learn this lesson early gain an advantage that compounds over time. To understand why discipline so often outperforms intelligence, we must return to the nature of markets themselves. Markets are not examinations. They do not reward correct answers. They reward behavior over time. This is where many intelligent people misunderstand the game they're playing. They believe success comes from being right more often than others. In reality, success comes from being wrong in controlled ways. This is why I have always emphasized margin of safety. Margin of safety is not merely a financial concept. It is a psychological one. It exists to protect the investor not only from analytical errors, but from himself. The intelligent investor often believes he can adapt freely. He trusts his judgment to change course when necessary. But judgment, when exercised repeatedly under emotional pressure, becomes unreliable. This is where structure matters. Structure limits the damage of emotion. It defines what you will do before stress arrives. Without structure, even the most intelligent mind becomes reactive. This brings us again to Mr. Market. Mr. Market is not interested in your intelligence. He does not care how much you have studied. He responds only to your emotional state. When you are calm, he offers opportunity. When you are anxious, he offers urgency. When you are confident, he tests patience. When you are fearful, he exploits weakness. The intelligent person often believes he can outthink Mr. Market, but Mr. Market cannot be outthought. He can only be ignored, and ignoring him requires discipline. Discipline does not mean rigidity. It means consistency. It means following a process, even when emotion argues otherwise. It means acting when action is required, and refraining when restraint is wiser. I have observed that the most successful investors were rarely the most intellectually gifted. They were the most emotionally stable. They did not react to every signal. They did not revise their framework with every headline. They accepted that uncertainty was permanent. This acceptance is crucial. Intelligent people often believe uncertainty is a temporary condition to be solved. In markets, uncertainty is the environment. Those who wait for it to disappear wait indefinitely. Those who learn to operate within it progress. This is why discipline compounds. Each time an investor follows his process under pressure, confidence grows. Not confidence in prediction, but confidence in behavior. And this form of confidence is far more durable. Over time, discipline creates emotional distance. That distance allows clearer thinking. Clearer thinking improves decision quality. Thus, behavior quietly improves outcomes without the need for brilliance. The intelligent mind often resists this idea. It feels unsatisfying. It feels mechanical. It feels beneath one's intellectual capacity. But markets are indifferent to how clever a strategy feels. They reward what survives. The investor who builds simple rules and follows them faithfully gains an advantage that cannot be easily observed. It does not appear dramatic. It does not attract attention. But it endures. In the final part of our discussion, we will bring these ideas together and answer the most important question of all. How does an intelligent person stop being trapped by his own mind and begin building wealth through calm, disciplined behavior? Let us now bring this discussion to a clear and honest close. Intelligence is not a weakness, but when it is left without structure, it becomes unreliable. Markets do not punish people for being unintelligent. They punish people for being undisciplined. This is the distinction that many intelligent individuals struggle to accept. They believe better thinking will eventually lead to better results. In reality, better behavior leads to better thinking. When decisions are guided by structure, emotion loses its authority. When emotion loses authority, clarity returns. The goal of the intelligent investor is not to eliminate uncertainty. That is impossible. The goal is to function effectively within it. This is why calm matters. Calm allows patience. Patience allows consistency. Consistency allows compounding. These qualities do not appear impressive. They do not attract attention, but they quietly determine outcomes over time. If you're intelligent and feel financially stuck, the answer is not to think faster or analyze more deeply. It is to simplify, to define rules you can follow under pressure, to limit decisions that drain emotional energy, to accept that progress rarely feels dramatic. Wealth is not built through constant insight. It is built through sustained behavior. The intelligent person who learns restraint gains an advantage that does not depend on prediction, timing, or brilliance. It depends on temperament, and temperament, once trained, becomes a form of protection. If there is one thought I would leave you with, it is this: your intelligence is not failing you, but it cannot carry you alone. Only when intelligence is paired with discipline does it become effective. Only when thought is supported by structure does it endure. This is how intelligent people stop remaining poor, not by discovering something new, but by behaving consistently in an uncertain world. Thank you for listening to my lesson. Don't forget to subscribe for the next lesson, dear investment enthusiasts.